Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Hey everybody, it's Tuesday night. I'm Kevin, and as always, I'm joined by Tony Has Nine Fingers.
What is going on, people?
And today we have a very special guest. It's been a weird couple of weeks where I was trying to get her on. I was sick and all these other things, but everything works out, right? It works out for a reason. So I wanted to welcome Victoria Vertuga.
Hey!
Hey, thanks for coming on. And you have a new movie called Lexi, which is streaming now. Is it other places other than Vimeo, or is it just?
It's been picked up. We're waiting to go live. Unfortunately, they don't give you a lot of notice, so it'll be live soon. They're like, you just got to keep checking, and one day there it is. So any moment.
Right. And so, like, this is kind of close to our hearts. It's about like an influence. Not that I influence anybody, but
yeah, it's your world though. Yeah.
Well, I guess it's a YouTube influencer who kind of things fall apart. And to be honest with you, I mean that kind of stuff does happen. I mean, not to the extent that it's happening in this movie, but there's other YouTubers that I follow.
I don't know. I've seen stuff like that happen more often than not here in especially like bigger YouTubers too. You see them one day, and then the next day it's like, what happened? And then all speculation goes on, and so it happens a lot, especially in these days, in this day and age, with the amount and how big social media has reached. It's crazy.
Yeah, just Boogie 2988 just came back like kind of full time, and he had a situation where someone showed up at his house and they were tormenting him, and he pulled a gun and shot up in the air, and he ended up getting arrested.
Oh my God!
This guy was stalking him. Yeah, it was crazy. But
people are crazy.
So what? Because you wrote, you are also one of the directors, and you star in this movie. You are
Correct.
Lexi. So how did this all come to be? Like, how did you get the ideas? Did this all happen during the pandemic?
It did. So, like everybody else, my plans were completely waylaid by the pandemic. So there was another project that we were planning to shoot later that year that we had to put on hold just while everything was shut down. And so during that time, I was just kind of trying to figure out what to do, how to be creative, like how to utilize that time, feel productive. So me and my writing partner, Eric, were just kicking around ideas for things we could do that would be very easy to film, like where it's almost all of me, and we could film other things if we needed to safely during COVID and kind of figure that out. So came up with the idea of an influencer, because I was like, then we can, use her own social media posts to tell the story. And if there's a reason why she's like stuck at home and having security camera footage, then that gives us another avenue to tell it. We'd also, there's this strangely enough, it came out like after we'd already filmed Lexi, but before Lexi was out, called it's like The Disappearance of the Cecil Hotel. It's the Netflix show about this girl who went missing. So that happened in like 2013, I believe. So there's that footage of this girl in the elevator, right? Elisa Lam. Yep. And it's just so compelling because you don't know what's happening on the other side of it. Is there someone else there? What's going on? You're trying to figure it out. And like what you can't see is as interesting as what you can see. So we would always, that footage kind of inspired me. And I was like, why has nobody told something with like security camera footage? There's something inherently kind of compelling about it because it's something you feel like you shouldn't be watching. There's a voyeuristic component. And usually you're only seeing stuff like that if there's something weird happening or something bad happening. So when we got that idea, I was like, we can give her a reason to put this stuff up in her home, and then we can use that security camera footage, which I just found interesting and compelling and fun to play with. And I hadn't really seen that done before. It was just kind of born out of, trying to be creative during that time with very limited resources and obviously not the usual things at your disposal. So yeah, it was an interesting challenge too for writing, because everything you see, it's like, why are we seeing this? Like, look, yes, but the camera's up, so we know that we're seeing them. We have to establish all this stuff. So it's like, it really kind of was a creative and interesting writing exercise because you had these really narrow parameters, but then you could play within that little narrow box that you created for yourself. So it was very cool in that way.
Yeah. And there was and the way that it's written and the way that it plays out as well, there's a few times during the movie, I'm like, okay, I think it's going to be this, or then I'm like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's going to be this. So like, I'm like, is it a stalker? Is it this? Is it, whatever? Like, so you kind of like, if there's someone filming, there's got to be someone, like, I don't know. Like, so you're just thinking, like in my mind, I'm like, which one is it? Like, I don't know. So I was trying to figure it out by the end. And then I was like, I wonder how it's going to, like, I didn't know if you were leaving it open for like a possibility of a sequel.
Yes, exactly. Well, so what you said is exactly what we wanted, where we didn't want to tip our hands. So actually, like, this was an interesting process to film because we found so much of the film itself during the filming process. Because things we'd written in the script, you try it and you're like, it's not really playing, but let's try this other thing. So a lot of like the ring footage stuff and just the things that we ended up doing were just things that I tried, just to see if I worked and what we liked and whatever. So a lot of it was found during the stuff. And on that token, we have so many things that we did film that we do not use. So there were some things that we had filmed where it kind of tips the scales one way or another. And we ended up taking all that stuff out because we didn't want to tip the scale. So like, we didn't want you to ever see a person, but we also didn't want you to ever see anything definitively one way or the other. Cause we wanted it to remain mysterious so that people could make their own interpretations of it. Same thing with the endings. We filmed a couple endings that kind of answered it, and it just didn't, we didn't like it as much as we liked it to leave it open-ended. I know that's frustrating for some people. They're like, people are like emailing me, like, what happened? Tell me what happened. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, even to the point where there's like one person who's being interviewed that's in the dark all the time. And I'm like, what's going to happen with this? Something's going to happen with this. We're going to find out that it was this all along. And I'm like, nope. Like, so I don't know. So good job on that. Cause that's the one curse about like watching as many movies as we watch is we're always trying to figure them. Like we can't help it, but we're like trying to figure them out as we're going along. It's like
I'm the exact same way, and I'm like the worst person to watch a movie next to because usually I do, and I figured it out like really early, and people can tell when they're next to me just by my body language. Like, oh, he figured it out already. So sometimes it's kind of nice to not be able to figure it out, although it is unsatisfying. But obviously it has the kind of the true crime component to it as well, which sometimes they are not solved cases. Sometimes we don't have a happy little wrapped up ending. We don't know what happened. So we felt like it kind of just served the story to do it that way. Very, very much aware that like some people will not enjoy that it is not answered.
but whatever. That's good. I mean, it's something different. So Sergio's in the chat room. He wants to say hi. Hey. Hello, Sergio. He's a regular in the chat room. So what's up, Serge? But yeah. So this all started during the pandemic. How long did the whole process take? Because I mean, like, so it's like a found footage movie, but it's mixed in with like some like higher produced like segment like interviews. Correct. Where it's not the whole thing is just found footage where it looks like someone's with a camcorder, which is also, good to see as well. Sometimes, it gets a little much, but, so how long did this whole process take?
Yeah, so because we were filming it, so we wrote it, conceived of it, wrote it, shot it all during like the early days of COVID, during the lockdown. But because of how I had to film it, because like I said, we found so much of it kind of during the process of filming. And also like my husband was working from home during that time, having to film around like our schedules and everything else. And, I still write and do other things as well. So like, trying to film around our schedules. But because so much of it was just me, it allowed me that flexibility. But it did take definitely much longer than, normally we would film. It was over the course of months where we would film, try things, whatever. I would like upload it to the drive and my partner could see it and he'd be like checking every day, like, did she film today? To see what I would put up there. So yeah, it did take quite a while. And then with the interviews, actually what we did is originally we filmed them at a place where it kind of like just faded into black. Like if you've ever seen like the R. Kelly documentary, sometimes they do interviews that way where it's like black behind them. But we ultimately decided that we wanted to do it a different way to give it a little bit more production value. So we actually filmed like the days with those people twice so we could film them in different sets so that they would, give us a little variety and whatever. So yeah, but that was just kind of like a day of filming for each of them. Easy breezy. So that part was real simple. So we actually filmed them dead last. And while we actually kind of came up with a cut of the film before we filmed them, because I wanted to make sure that if we wanted any tweaks, we'd only have to use them, once. So I just like said those parts, I just like in front of or whatever, just said all their parts so we could kind of cut it together first, see what we wanted to change before we actually shot that part with them. So the interviews with those three people were the very last things that we filmed.
Nice. And then there was other, it was like fans of,
yes.
Lexi that were
Oh,
sending
yeah.
him like little. So how did that? Were those like just friends, or were they people that
Yep.
you reached out to on social media or something?
No, they were literally like crowdsourced by our friends and family and whatever. We were like, just thinking of how we could open up the world a little bit with these restrictions that we had, and not wanting to film with too many people and whatever because COVID still. So this was pre-vaccine, pre-everything. So yeah, trying to figure that out as well. So we were like, okay, let's see if people can send them stuff. So we kind of gave people parameters. We're like, hey, do you want to be a fan? You want to be like a conspiracy theorist? Do you want to be a hater? Who do you want to be?
Yeah.
And then they kind of just submitted their takes to us and we popped them in there. So that was actually really fun too. Also a cool way to kind of get people interested and involved in the project too. And like I mentioned, just kind of open the world a little bit.
Yeah, because if they've never been in a movie or whatever, then it's like, hey, I'm in this movie. Go check it out.
Did you do any
Go ahead.
crowdfunding for it?
We did not.
Because at that point in time, like for Indiegogo, that could have been a perk. Been like, spend this much money and have a chance to be in the movie. So
100%. After the fact, we were like, yeah, we maybe should have done that. But again, we were just kind of like doing this. At first, we weren't really even necessarily sure, what it would be and how we'd feel about it. Because of the way that we wrote it and filmed it, it was such like a weird, unique experience that we weren't quite sure. But yeah, I agree. I was like, dang, that was a missed opportunity. It's funny too, because one of my friends who submitted a video, like one of the reviewers who checked out a screening of it, specifically mentioned him. He's like the guy who's like, oh, Lexi, that thirst trap or whatever. And he's like so excited. I sent him the thing. I was like, hey, look, you got mentioned. Like you got a shout out in the review. And it was so funny. So yeah, it's good times. Nice to get people involved, like you said, especially not non-actors and stuff. It's fun for them to be a part of these kinds of things.
And if you do a sequel, that's an option down the road. Like if this comes out and like everyone, people like it, you'd be like, hey, we're gonna do a sequel. Here's your chance. You can be a creep, Because that one dude who's just like, oh, I want to see more of those whatever videos.
Fetish videos, yes.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like that's fun. But yeah, so that's the thing is there's multiple layers of Lexi, but at the same time too, I don't want to say too much about Lexi because I don't want to give anything away because there legit is multiple layers where you really are kind of getting pulled in a couple different directions throughout the movie where you think it's one thing. And the house too is almost like a character. So like, well, obviously it's like a character. It's kind of mentioned in the movie, but and I respect the fact that it looks like a lived-in house. It doesn't look like a set because it's my
house.
Right. The biggest question I have is what's the deal with the tape on that cabinet door?
The tape on the cabinet door. So the real truth of the tape on the cabinet door is that so also like my dogs, it was so funny to film this because I was like, well, I'm going to film it in my house. So like, it is my house. We're going to embrace it. And then my dogs was like, shit, well, either I'm going to create them like all the time when I'm filming and, try to have them be quiet and with the whole nine, or I'm just going to be like, Lexi has dogs. So Lexi has dogs because I have dogs. And people kept asking me, where'd you find the house? Where'd you find the house? I'm like, dude, that's my house.
I got out of bed and it was right there. It's crazy.
Right. Crazy. So speaking of the dogs in the house, that's where I'm getting to the tape. The tape is my dogs love to run around like maniacs, and we have mostly wood floors in the house, which is like slippery. So they're like little cartoon characters trying to get a grip. So one time they jumped out, ran out of the bedroom. We have like 3 little steps that lead to the bedroom and just fucking smashed into the cabinet door. And we have not quite fixed that yet. So there you have it.
I was actually kind of speculating that because that's one thing I read about you as well, that you're like you are a big like supporter of like. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. My wife is a vet tech, so she's a crazy everything lady. So, but yeah, so that's something you do like besides your work in acting and writing and stuff like that. You like it's like a pit bull rescue or something.
Yeah. So I'm part of a group called Angel City Pitbulls. I've actually been volunteering at like the city shelters in LA since college. But I've been with Angel City since like the group started in 2010. I started with them in probably like 2013. And my oldest dog right now is the red and white one. She was like one of the first dogs that Angel City pulled. So we are basically a nonprofit in LA. We pull from the 6 LA city shelters and we do a ton of community outreach for especially the South LA community. We do like low cost food drives. We help facilitate spay and neuter clinics and sheep vet clinics. We have free training classes. We do tons of stuff like that. And because LA it was one of the good things during the pandemic was that people's kind of awareness around fostering and adopting increased and that people were stuck at home. So a lot of them adopted pets. Unfortunately, right now we're seeing like the opposite of that happening. We're seeing really, really low adoption numbers and tons of intake. as people are moving or having financial problems or, all kinds of things. And the shelter still has kind of reduced hours due to COVID, which is making it harder for people to come and look at dogs and adopt. But when I started volunteering in the city shelters, there was about a 30% save rate for dogs. So they only had a 30% chance of making it out of the shelter alive, just because of the influx of, we have so many animals coming in and not enough going out, right? So just purely for space reasons, like the shelter, only has capacity for what they have capacity for. So that has drastically improved. So we're right around the 90% save rate for dogs and cats right now.
Wow.
The last few years. So it's been a huge increase. So, but yeah, that's a lot of the work that like Angel City and a million other rescue organizations are doing is partly responsible for that. So
yeah.
We also pull a ton of medical dogs that like get hit by cars or have major surgery and need all that kind of stuff that the shelter just isn't equipped to handle and care for.
Right. So is it so I mean, besides the shelter, like am I wrong about like there being like a pit bull specific thing or?
No, so you were absolutely right. So we are a pit bull rescue. We like to say we also pull a lot of what we call pit bull adjacent dogs because we do a lot of this
like a mixed breed, yeah.
100%. So we and bulldogs and Frenchies and we have a lot of Cane Corsos like Italian Mastiffs in South LA. But we've pulled boxers and shepherds and all kinds of stuff. So really just if usually the medical ones are the ones that we'll pull regardless of breed. But yes, we are pit bull rescue. So up to this point we have I think gotten right around 1,500 if not over that at this point dogs spiffed up and adopted and all that kind of stuff.
That's insane. I mean it really is crazy. My wife before we were together. I mean, we've been together for like 16 years. So but it's like before that, I didn't really realize like at how bad it was. When she pretty much opened my eyes, and it's like it's crazy. And then especially with pit bulls, I don't know about in your area, but in my area, like it's actually hard to get homeowners insurance if you have a pit bull.
Absolutely. Homeowners insurance is a huge problem. People who are renting, because apartments will ban what they call the power breeds, which, is always pit bulls. Sometimes it's also, it can be like Rottweilers or Dobies and stuff on there as well, but always pit bulls. So yeah, because hard for them to find a place to rent. If they have a dog, definitely hard for them to get homeowners insurance. State Farm, for everyone listening, if you have a pit bull, State Farm is awesome and they don't give a crap what your dog's breed is. So rock on to
that's awesome. Good to know.
Yeah, exactly. But it is definitely more challenging. I mean, there still is a ton of discrimination against them. There are still cities, in Miami's one. Denver just finally overturned it that have BSL where they're not even allowed in the city.
Wow.
Which is actually found to be completely ineffective. And cities that actually have BSL strangely conversely have a higher incidence of bites because it doesn't really have anything to do with anything. Right. It's not based in science. It's not productive. But definitely there are unique challenges to pit bulls. I mean, the stigma is slowly changing. We've seen over the history of time, there's always kind of one dog breed that is considered like the villain. At one point it was German Shepherds. At one point it was Rottweilers. At one point it was Dobermans. Pit bulls have just been, unfortunately had that stigma for like the longest, it seems. At this point,
I'm not going to lie. I mean, they are, some of them are intimidating.
Absolutely. I mean, any big strong dog, right, can be intimidating. Right. Period.
But every one that I've had like a one-on-one experience with has been absolutely like a sweetheart. And like,
that's because I mean, in my life, it's always like the bigger the dog, the dumber but funny. Like I'm always not afraid of them, but every time I see like a small dog, it's got that Napoleon syndrome where it's like I'm just gonna bark at you and try to nip at you, and then the mean ones, like the big goofy dogs, are just like running around.
The data actually supports that. Like if you're looking at straight numbers of like bite incidents, small dogs are responsible for the vast majority of bites that happen because, like you're saying, that is they're Napoleon complex. They're more nervous. They have more to lose. Whatever. They're more defensive.
They're constantly like checking over their shoulders because they know like they're a target.
Right, exactly. They're like always got to worry, So I mean, you see my dogs in the movie, right? That's how they are. Like that's how they are.
Right.
So
there was actually one scene where I was just like, these dogs, you'd think that they would be awesome like guard dogs, but you're like yelling and closing the door, and I'm like, they're just sitting there, not even looking at you. And I'm like,
they are not phased. It's so funny. And when we filmed, like they gave us like no reaction to anything ever, and I was like, this is hilarious. Like they're so chill, like they just don't care. And if anyone came in, they would like smother them with kisses. They're like friend, they have zero idea.
I was about to say that throughout the film. I'm just like there was like 3 or 4 scenes where I'm like, I don't think they've moved at all. So if it was an intruder at some point in time, I'm like, they're not that really good of guard dogs. The whole time
there was that one scene where you were like walking around like looking for something and you were like calling it out, and then one of the dogs was getting psyched, and you mentioned it by name. You're like, oh yeah, whatever, and I was just like, oh, the dog wants to play now. Because
Yes.
you're just like being like all high pitched, like, hey, where are you? Like blah blah blah. You know. So I'm like, that dog knows
Totally.
what's up. But
Yes.
yeah, so that's awesome. I appreciate that you do that. And we
Thank
have like,
you.
we donate to shelters all the time and stuff like that.
Love it.
So
Thank you.
yeah, there's something on our refrigerator. I forget the exact wording, but it's like you can't buy a best friend. So like, don't go to like a breeder and just buy a breed. There's plenty of dogs that need a good home.
So
So
many, and I tell people too all the time here. There's such a an idea that like if you want a certain breed, you have to go to a breeder, and that is so not the case. Like whatever area you're in, I always tell people like if you want like I want a golden retriever, Google like Southern California golden retriever, or Massachusetts golden retriever rescue. I promise you there are rescues.
There is. My wife worked at one. Yeah.
Exactly, that you want. So it might take you a little longer. You might need to have a little bit more patience to find it, but I guarantee you there are rescues for whatever breed you're into. You can find it. Like this, I think the stats are about basically like 40% of dogs in the shelter system are considered purebreds. So wow. Yeah.
And just people get them, and they like when 101 Dalmatians was a thing, like everyone was getting Dalmatians.
Yes.
And the thing is, they're actually pretty aggressive Dalmatians. Like,
and the thing now is like Game of Thrones made Huskies really popular because people want something that looks like a dire wolf. So it's like it's so trendy. And then I guess they're worried now because of the Channing Tatum movie Dog. Like Malinois people are worried that like Malinois are going to get really popular now, and they're like, oh no, So it's just so funny. It's so interesting that way.
It's tough, but that's awesome. I'm glad you do that kind of work. That's pretty fantastic. And it's always interesting to see what people do. Like, we don't know what actors and actresses do like with their free time. Like no one ever talks about that. Like there's a couple, like there's actually another she's like a horror icon, Linnea Quigley.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, she does like dog rescue stuff too.
Yep, a lot of them do. It's like absolutely. I feel like a lot of actors are huge animal lovers, right? So like it's there's a lot of us.
Adam Green does the Yorkies.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
nice.
That's true. Yeah, because he's got a Yorkie. So like he does like a Yorkie like rescue thing too. So going back into the movie and your career, because we've talked about dogs for a good half hour. No,
of course, I can talk about dogs all day.
Yeah, I hear you. I can do. But so you've been in quite a bit. You've been in some like higher profile projects and stuff like that. You've been in some like lower budget stuff.
Haven't we all?
Yeah, that's all I've been in is lower budget stuff. So how did you get started like in your journey? How did it all begin?
Yeah. So I mean I have like a insanely how should we call them? Quirky whatever. My extended family is like very talented and very weird. And so we used to have to do these like talent shows growing up every summer, where like my grandma would assign a play and we'd all like get cast in the play, and then we'd all play instruments. We'd all have to do like instrument things and dances and whatever. And so I've been like performing literally for my family in talent shows since I was since I could walk. And then I've always loved performing. But I'm also very type A, and I'm very like to plan and like stability and like organization and stuff like that. So I kind of resisted the artist's life for a while because I just thought that it would be too unpredictable for me and too, I don't know. Challenging. It is challenging. I won't lie. But so I actually worked on the business side of entertainment right after I graduated college for like a few years, and I was thinking that would be maybe a happy medium where I'm still in entertainment, but I have the stability of a normal job, a normal paycheck. Oh, I hated it so much. It was not fulfilling to me in any way, shape, or form. And I'm so glad I had that experience because it really gave me the impetus that I needed to get out there and do what I really wanted to do anyway that I'd been resisting. And I learned that, about myself that way too. I learned that actually like freedom to me is everything. Freedom is so much more important to me than stability in terms of my mindset and being able to be happy and fulfilled. Like monotony just, it sucks my life out. So just the fact that like every day is different in this, and I'm always meeting new people and doing new things, that for me is so awesome and amazing. I love that part of it. I love the collaborative nature of it. I love everything like that. So then I've been basically acting full time since then. So acting and writing, and I like to say I'm always coming up with new and exciting ways to get rejected. So I get rejected as an actor, and then I start writing, and I get rejected as a writer, and then you start directing, and you get rejected as a director. So there'll probably be a couple more ways I come up with. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, the writing kind of came about because shockingly, I was just kind of unfulfilled with the quality of the roles I was getting and going out for. It's like how many hot blondes, dumb blondes, hot dumb blondes, stripper number 3, how many times can you do that where you're like, this is not exactly what I wanted to be doing. So just started writing, to create some opportunities for myself and create roles that I wanted to do. And obviously I write things that I'm not in as well. But yeah, just it was very empowering to be able to kind of feel like I was controlling my own destiny more and having more of a say in my own career. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
So you've dabbled in a lot of different genres. So what brings you to horror? Like, are you a horror fan? Like, actually, Sergio's been asking multiple times in the chat.
Yes, are you a fan? So I am for sure. I love. It's funny. I think I'm more of what I'll call like a psychological thriller fan than I am a straight horror fan. I do like horror though, but the kind of horror I like is more less just gore for gore's sake, more like weird story pulling you in, that kind of stuff. But what I love about horror in general too is that it's like, horror fans are very forgiving, and like horror is like the last bastion of people being able to take risks and do things, and as long as you deliver kind of certain, like you have like a contract with your fans, right? And it's like as long as you deliver and you meet certain criteria, like it's all good, and you can take risks and do different things within that, which is really kind of fun and amazing. And in the like as an indie filmmaker, it's one of the last bastions of where you can actually do things on, without a studio backing you and still, have a career and make money and do it that way. So that's another obviously huge benefit of horror. And I also think it's like, there's so many subgenres within it, right? There's found footage, there's paranormal, there's like, slashers, there's 80s slashers, there's so many things you can come up with. Yeah. And that's really cool too, because you have a lot of room to play around. And there's a lot of comedy, horror, you can go all kinds of different ways with it. So that's kind of what makes it fun, is that within the genre itself, you have so much diversity and things to play with.
Like I'm a fan like of most of the like subgenres, but I agree. There's nothing better than like a really good, like intense movie that you care about the characters and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. Right after that, I'll watch a movie where it's just people getting hit in the head with baseball bats for an hour. And I'm fine with it.
Yes,
right.
Totally.
But at the same time too, like for what that is, I like actually being like in the, like feeling like I'm like really part of the movie almost, where it's just like, holy crap, this really just is like got all of my attention. It's hard to stay away from your cell phone when you're watching a movie.
Yes.
And if I can like not look at a movie, like not look at my phone the whole time, I'm like, this movie was fantastic. Because I didn't look at my phone
That's such a good litmus test. I know, like I know I'm not into it if I pick up my phone. It's so true. If you go to the phone, like they're not holding your attention. Right. Yes, I agree wholeheartedly.
It's like if I'm looking to see if my Candy Crush stuff is like reloaded, then I didn't like the movie. But so do you have like, what would you say your favorite horror movie would be?
I'm also like watching so much as a producer and as like a writer, like for research and to see what's out there and what people are doing or whatever. So me and my writing, I would say that Silence of the Lambs is a horror film, and I would say that
I agree 100%. 100%. It scares the crap out of me. So doesn't Seven. Seven scares the crap out of me too.
Oh my God, two of my favorite movies you just named. Absolutely fantastic. And it's funny because they have big names in them and they're big Hollywood movies. So like no one calls them horror movies, but like they really are horror movies.
They're scarier than a lot of the other horror movies that I love.
100%.
We said it before, where it's more like stuff that actually can happen is scarier than your everyday. I mean, there could be someone that goes crazy and slashes people, but there's more of a chance of something like Lexi happening, or like just
or the strangers, or the
someone breaking into your house, or something 100%. Along those lines. It happens all the time. You watch true crime, and it always happens. So that's a little bit scarier than a monster coming up and eating you because
he's dead, and then now he's alive again.
Back for 15 movies,
but I love those movies too.
So do I. Those are fun. Yeah. They're fun, right? They are what they are. One of the ones we're writing the next thing. So a project that we're writing, we were looking at things for tone stuff. And did you see? Is it called Ready or Not? It's like
yes.
Yeah.
That was fun. Yeah. So I like that too, because it's like sometimes I feel like I like there's humor finds its way into like everything I write, whether I want it to or not, and like satire does as well. So sometimes I feel like it doesn't always work, or like there isn't always space for that and everything. But like that movie I think did a good job of like finding the humor in it and still delivering on the horror tropes that you expect and whatever.
Yeah.
So that was like a good one that I liked in the last few years.
There's been a handful of like some pretty solid stuff in the last couple of years, and a lot of it is like extremely independent, like extremely low budget, but that's where a lot of the good ideas are coming from.
I was going to say that's
Hollywood's just making that they're making the same movies over and over again. Don't get me wrong, if they kill it, they kill it. Like Candyman, the new Candyman I thought was great.
Yes.
Stuff like that is fantastic, but it's the same story over and over again with a lot of these other ones.
It really is. And just like sometimes too, I feel like, and even you see this in indie film, I mean, for sure too, where it's like, okay, so you get it, you know, it's like six friends go to the woods and blah, 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 you know, but it's like, how do you make it, how do you put your spin on it? Like, what's your POV on this? Like, I think, you know, how are the characters interesting or what's the dynamics or whatever? Like, I think for us, when we're writing, we're always looking at like, something else happening, you know, it wouldn't just be a group of friends that go. It's like, okay, they're a group of friends, but this one just found out that her husband slept with this one and you know, like to add the tension and make it, you know, interesting and more dynamic. So I think that you see a lot of like, you know, both indie and mainstream. Sometimes people just get kind of lazy and formulaic and they're just kind of like plugging and playing. So I think it's like what I like about the cool indie films and the cool studio stuff too is like somebody with a very specific POV. It's like, you know, that's why Get Out was so huge when it came out too, right? It was such a you know, Jordan's POV. It's different. It's got him all over it. So
thank goodness that he doesn't like just be like, all right, just give me the money and I'll do whatever you tell me. Because that's the thing too, is there's even some smaller like directors and film writers that you know, they've made some like really like cool like grindhouse almost kind of stuff over the last handful of years, and then they get paid by someone else to direct a movie, and it's just like, yeah, that movie's garbage. I just did it because I wanted to fund my next movie. Yeah.
Yep.
You know, so it's unfortunate because with people like me and people like Tony, like we follow people. Like not to be creepy, but if we're a fan of someone, we're gonna check out everything you do.
That. Yeah, you're like, what's coming up next? So you have kind of like, again, it's kind of like a contract with, right? You have an expectation with it. Yeah, I know, and that can be a bummer, I think. But I also understand as an artist, you're like, if you have an opportunity to take the paycheck and that allows you the freedom to do the thing you want to do. It's like me as an actor, you know, no offense to everyone, but not every role I'm taking is like, yes, oh my God, you know, it's just sometimes it's a paycheck. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm gonna do my best job. I'm gonna be professional. I'm gonna, you know, nail that role. I'm gonna act my heart out, but you know, not everything can be, you know, not everything is that.
So like with this, you wrote, directed, and you starred in this movie, and like, but then you look at stuff like you did a part in Dexter, which is pretty huge, but I'm sure that you're proud of that, but you're probably, I mean, I would understand if you were more proud of a feature film that you wrote, directed, and starred in.
100%. Again, because it goes back to like I think it just takes a lot more to do that. You know what I mean? I think there's this weird thing that happens in this day and age where it's kind of everyone's like, oh, just make your own stuff as if it's easy, because we do, it is easier than ever before. And that's for sure. But like producing is I mean, if you're actually doing it, like you are doing everything. I mean, it's exhausting. It takes tons of work and time and energy. Yeah. So it's not just like this easy thing that you can throw together. So I think, so there's a film that the one that we were going to do that we ended up doing Lexi because of lockdown, we filmed last November. So it's in post right now. But and that was like one of the most challenging things I've ever done, just because it was like, you know, when you make a film, it's like planning a wedding or doing anything crazy. It's like things are going to go wrong inevitably. But for this project, like everything that could go wrong went wrong. Like, everything. We got like from like a cat getting stuck in the grip truck and like destroying all the shit to like us like nicking a weird pipe that was like this far under the ground for some reason, like causing a flood on like our last day of filming. It was like chaos. So like just chaos. So like the amount, like the fact that I was able to like still make it a really pleasant set to be on and like still deliver a really good performance as an actress and like see that project through despite all that stuff, like that took a lot of me. So I'm way more proud of that than I am on the fact that like somebody liked my look and figured I would be the girl to say these lines on Dexter. You know what I mean? Not that that was amazing. It was cool. That was actually the first job I ever booked where I watched it. You know, it was a show I watched and I was a fan.
Oh, wow.
I was at Michael C. Hall and like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like with Dexter. It's weird. It's crazy. So very cool. I'm not taking away from that, but I think, you know, it definitely takes a lot more. It's a lot more challenging and takes a lot more effort to do this on your own, you know?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, all the people that we talk to, like, you know, we learn as we talk to people. Like, there's a lot of stuff we don't know because we don't make movies. We don't like. I've been in a few like little things like for like a minute, and it's like it's nothing. So it's like I don't know. I don't know what it's like. Like I still don't know what it's like. I've been on one real movie set, and it was cool, and that was it, and it was for a day, and you know, but whatever. But I mean, so with things like Dexter, where that's kind of like an iconic, I mean, has that helped you like get into, you know, because like, oh, she was in Dexter. Dexter is a pretty big show. Yeah, has that helped you like book like even auditions and stuff?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Like acting is so weird. It's like I feel like you're always kind of thinking that there's going to be that thing. Like, what's the thing going to be that's going to, you know, your big break, or just not even that, your little break that leads to other breaks, and it does and it doesn't. You know, it's interesting. It definitely there's no like definitive doors that it opened up for me. And I didn't really experience like an uptick in auditions afterwards. the way that you kind of wish you might. I think it's funny because I kind of try to analyze that in people's careers too. I think you have to be recurring on it, meaning like multiple episodes. I think if you're in multiple episodes with the right kind of role on the right show at the right time, that can open a lot of doors. But I think that the bar for that is actually a lot higher than people think, especially today when we're not all watching something the way we like. Back in the days, like 7 shows and everyone watched them all, right? Now there's like, oh my God, there's so many shows. Like I have friends who are the lead, like the main person in a show that's gone 7 seasons, and no one would recognize them on the street. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's just, there's so much content out there.
Yeah.
So I think, again, that makes it a little harder for like people to really remember you and remember what you were and how you did and whatever. Obviously every role you book is just another opportunity to meet people. Like I met an amazing director on that job. He was so kind, and like, they're all great. They lead to things that maybe you wouldn't think they would lead to, but it definitely wasn't like, whoa, the floodgates are open. Because what I mean?
I can go buy a new house and a new car, and this 100%, is cool.
Right. Yeah. Woo, boom, I made it. Yeah.
See, and that's the thing. As a fan, like I don't know how this stuff works. So like I see someone who's been in like 100 movies, and I'm like, you must be like living off the friggin' high hog or whatever. And they're like, nope, I still have a job. And I'm like, what? Like,
so many people, it's crazy. And I know so many friends again who are like series reg, meaning like they're like one of the main cast members on a TV show, and they don't quit their day jobs until like season 3 sometimes or whatever, until they like can't possibly accommodate the hours on set and the thing on the job, because it's not what you think it is. You know what I mean? It's not the money or the anything. And what's happened kind of that's changed the landscape a little bit today as well is that we have way more big movie stars coming to TV, which means that the budget is getting eaten up by them. So whereas a normal actor, you have like SAG scale, what you're required to be paid, but you basically you also have your quote. So like each time you book like a guest star, you'll get a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And that's like your quote now. So you're not just making scale, you're making a little bit more than that. But what's happened with the influx of like big, huge names coming to TV is that there's not really that budget for everyone else because they're taking it all. So they're kind of like scale or not, get out, like, so everyone's quote has kind of gotten reduced. So in some ways it's actually even harder now because you're basically confined to getting scale unless you're like have the clout to demand more, really have the clout to demand more. So for like your average working actor,
that's rough.
Yeah.
Well, especially with that, I'm sure everything, I mean, the landscape has changed so much too with like streaming services and all that, like, so much. It used to be like the NBC and ABC, but now you have like direct to Amazon or direct to Hulu or direct to whatever. So that changes the whole thing around. And it's just like, but going to, getting your big break and stuff, I guess that kind of equates to life, because there's some people that get the fast track and, whatever. And then other people have to grind, but
100%.
Me, like we've said before that, like we'll have someone on here and we follow their career. I appreciate that more than, okay, I've seen everything. I see how hard they worked. And okay, you get one big, and then that's what happens when you get pigeonholed too. You get that one big break, and that's what everybody thinks of you as.
Yes,
then you try to do something different, and it's like, okay, well that person's that, but you make a few smaller movies, and then it's like, okay, well they could act, they're in comedy and horror and stuff like this.
Oh wow, they have multiple facets, multiple ranges. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I mean, we've had like people that are considered horror legends on the show, and like they're like at the same time, like they're awesome and they're great, and like maybe not every movie they've made has been great, but at the same time too, they're playing like the same characters all the time. That's why like I love to see like Kane Hodder actually speak in a movie. And that's why, because it's like, he's not just Jason, like he's not, and Felissa Rose, like she's all over, like changing up her, like, she does a lot of the same kind of characters, but you look at like A Nun's Curse and like some other movies where she's just like, she's completely different than you've ever seen her before. So that's 100%. Good too. But at the same time, I feel kind of bad that it almost seems like the only thing that they can like get is horror. Not that I love horror, but I love everything. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's something like so I also produce too. And when you're thinking about like getting names attached and stuff, it's also very interesting to think about that, because I feel like there's multiple, two kinds of actors, many kinds of actors, but there's people who are like literally just doing it for the paycheck and they don't give a shit, and there's people who are doing it because they love to act. And if you are that kind of an actor, the opportunity to play against type and to do something you haven't had the chance to do before, a role that you haven't had the chance to play and a character you haven't had the chance to mess around with, is like such an amazing gift. So a lot of times I think you'll see people like working on projects that may be of a scale that they might not normally work on because of the opportunity to play.
To get a chance to do something different.
Exactly.
That's
I know
awesome.
for me, it's like, I totally get that, you know? And when I'm writing stuff too, for myself, it's always like, well, I want it to be different than the last thing, because I just did that. So like, what can we do that's different? You know, it's, you definitely, we, that's why, you know, if you're an actor and you love it to do it, you love the fact that you get to like live so many lives through these characters and experience so many things you wouldn't get to experience in your normal life. So there's definitely, it can get monotonous, you know, if you're playing the same kinds of roles over and over and over again. So I think, for sure, I totally get why people want to branch out and do other things. And
even though we're just talked about like not being pigeonholed, do you have like a favorite like genre? Like, are you a comedy person, or like you seem you're very bubbly, so I don't know if you lean towards that direction more?
Yeah, so I mean, I like, what I love about comedy is it's like music, right? It's so rhythmic. It's got its own language, and I definitely have a natural comedic timing and whatever. So I do love comedy, but my favorite really is like, I like dark comedy and I like drama with humor. Like, I like it both. I think like you need it. You know, when you're watching something like Breaking Bad is one of my favorite shows ever. And there's so much humor. It's like such a heavy subject matter, but there's also like so much humor in that show. And I feel like the darker and the heavier the content you're dealing with, like the more you almost need that humor as the release, right?
Oh, totally.
And so that for me, like, I don't love like, I mean, while I appreciate the technicality of the writing, whatever, like sitcoms, like multicams, is not really my jam. I love like weird dark comedies. I love like stuff that's going to be on FX or like stuff like that. You know, those kind of comedies are really
100%. 100%. Like, I'm all about FX. Like, I'm constantly watching stuff and like telling people like, you need to check this out. And like, I've never heard of it. Like, have you ever seen that show, Dave?
Yeah, Dave's so hilarious.
Oh my God. I'm
so
like,
weird. What I love about FX is like, FX is a network of people. It's like auteurs. It really is. It's like people doing their thing. And FX is like, you do you rock on, you know, like whether it's, you know, Donald Glover in Atlanta or like, you know, or Dave or so many things. Or Baskets was like that. I mean, there are all so many shows like that. Pamela Adlin's show Better Things. So I love that.
She's fantastic. Like, I want to see her in more. I want to see her in more stuff. Like,
she's freaking amazing.
I've seen her in so many things already, but I'm like, I just want to see her more. Like, she's just great. She's so
fantastic.
Great.
And like those stories are like, they're so clearly that person's creation, and that's what makes it cool. And whether it's for you or it isn't, like, you got to respect someone just doing their thing and doing it like unapologetically. There's something just amazing about that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That being said, let me I do have the trailer for Lexi. So if you're watching either now or later, here's the trailer, and if you're listening, you can listen to the trailer of Lexi, and then you can kick yourself for not watching. So here we go. Here's the trailer for Lexi, which is right now streaming on Vimeo, but it's coming to other platforms soon, right?
Yeah, it'll be on like Amazon and Tubi very soon.
Awesome. Here we go. Here's the trailer.
Hey, so you're the one that called about a missing friend, right?
Her name's Lexi.
Please just get out. I'm calling the police right now.
I mean, she's been going through a hard time.
It's been 12 days since the disappearance of 29-year-old blogger Alexandria Mancini. Theories abound, but authorities are no closer to discovering what actually happened.
Someone didn't like what she was selling.
I just hope that you're out there somewhere.
We miss you.
I hope you come back soon.
I just bought my very first home.
Only that house knows the truth. We can truly see a stunning transformation. Now, some will say this transformation was brought on by stress or by a chemical imbalance, but I believe that this change was brought on by dark forces that converged in the place that was supposed to be her haven.
You can do anything you set your mind to.
The stress of pretending finally got to her.
One of my fans or my friends is playing a prank.
I mean, the more people who know you or know of you, the more people who may want to inflict harm on you. No one just disappears.
There is something unexplainable happening to me.
A truly evil force.
I don't know who to trust.
People need to calm down with all this.
Someone had been watching her without her knowledge.
She was no longer Lexi.
Just help. I don't know what's going on.
I hope she's proud of herself.
You are proud of yourself. You should be. I just want to point out that was it Susan Louise O'Connor?
Yes,
is great. She's awesome.
She's fantastic. So I've worked with her, and we've thrown her in like almost all of our projects. She's amazing. I know her from acting class, and she's freaking awesome. She's just in Euphoria too, an episode of Euphoria. So good on her.
Oh, really? I have to ask my wife about that because she's all about Euphoria. I haven't watched it, and I'm afraid to because I've heard nothing but crazy
I'm
things.
like, I can't do any more like drug stuff, you know. Ugh.
Right. Yeah, just like the drug thing and overly sexualizing
teenagers.
Teenagers, yeah. I'm just like, it makes me feel old. Like it makes me feel like an elderly person because I'm like, those are kids. They don't think like that. And I'm like, wait a minute. When I was a kid, I thought like that. It's like there's a show that it's a British show. I think it's on Netflix called Sex Education.
Yep.
And it's wicked good, but it's the same deal. They're in high school. Yep. I'm like, this is crazy that I'm
watching. And that show is like graphic. It's like there's a lot. Like they go there. They do.
It's a good show. That being said, it's a good show.
And Gillian Anderson is freaking amazing. So yeah.
Is she really British?
She is British.
She's been British this whole time. Like,
dude, they're like every time there's like an amazing actor, you always find out they're British, and you're like, what? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Like half the cast of The Wire are
half
like
the cast of like Band of Brothers, like with the guy playing like the Creole, whatever. Like so many, they're always British. British actors are just fantastic. And why are their accents perfect? Like why are they so good at American accents, and why are we so bad at British accents?
I'm bad at American accents half the time. So like
seriously, can't even master English.
No, for real. Like I try to hide like my Massachusetts accent. Certain words come out a certain way. Certain numbers come out a certain way. Like when I'm talking to people on the phone for work and I'm like, I'm sorry. Like I realized you didn't understand a word I said. But whatever. But it's it's amazing. And because of that, like I get obsessed with like British television and British comedies. I love British comedies, but
it's so like uncomfortable. I love it. I know it's so
dry.
Funny. And the slang, like British slang, I know I get on kicks too. I watch like 5 British shows in a row, and then it's like it's great. I love it.
Yeah. There's some that I've watched multiple times. I'm just like, all right, it's time to watch the IT Crowd again. Like I just watched it from beginning to end. But so that's pretty great. So what's on the horizon for you? I mean, are you thinking of a sequel for Lexi, or are you thinking that this is a one and done?
We will see. We are open to it. Definitely open to it. We'll see. See what happens with this. But yeah, I would love. I mean, it was such a cool challenge, and I would definitely love to like explore that again. So we filmed another horror feature called "Cold Blows the Wind" in November, and that's in post right now. That should be done very, very soon. And then that will be coming out later this year. Hopefully, we might do a festival run with that. In which case, it might be early next year. But that is a normal. I don't say Lexi's a normal film, but a normal film, a more normal film. So it's about a couple who they go out for her birthday and they both drink and they drive drunk and they hit a jogger and then they take him to a boonies place to bury the body, and horror things ensue. And Jamie Bernadette is in that one with us. She's fantastic. So so that'll be the next thing. And then we are working on a script right now. That'll be probably the thing after that, unless we end up doing a sequel to Lexi, which that would happen too. So the other script is it will be kind of along the veins of the movie we were talking about earlier that the name is escaping me, hide and seek movie. What the hell is it?
Ready or Not.
There we go. Thank you. Sorry. Poof, brain fart. So it's going to be about a group of female caterers that go to like to do a fancy dinner party, and then they find out that they're there to be eaten.
Wow.
So yeah, it's like a comedy horror. So that we're working on that right now. And always so many projects in the mix. We have another one written that's dark and twisted as well. So we're always have things on the horizon. There'll be many more. I'll come back and talk about them all.
Yeah, that's awesome. But Jamie's pretty awesome. We've had her on multiple times. She's pretty great. So it's one of those things where I like seeing her and stuff too. Like there's certain 100%. People I just love when they pop up and things. I'm like, yeah, there you go. Like
it was so fun to work opposite her too. She was just great. Like it was so easy. Like it's just great when you're working with like seasoned actors who bring so much to the table and whatever. Like we had so much fun. It was great. It was really, really cool scenes, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited for people to see this one. It's nice. Fun.
And I think you brought it up before where you said there's two kind of actors that are either in it for the money or the the love of it. And it's just like we've said it many a times where we could watch a film and you could tell whether it's like, how many times did people come on and they're like, it was like family. Like I met these people in an hour and it felt like we've known each other for years. And then you get other people that are just like, okay, it's a paycheck. And no matter what you do, they just don't. It on camera, you could see it's like,
yep.
I don't think other things. It's like, we've mentioned, oh, you must have known each other for like years, and they're like, nope, we met on set, and it's just like you could tell. So
you totally can. Yeah. And what I love, like one of the things I love about producing and making stuff as well is like every time you do a project, like you are expanding your kind of like your network of influence. And I always work with people that I know as much as possible, but inevitably there's some roles that you don't have anybody in mind for that you got to cast for. And then it's like, if you like them, great. Then you throw them in the next one. And like you have them in your little arsenal too on your short list of people. Cause it's just such like, a comfort to work with people that you know are going to deliver. They're going to be nice on set. They're going to be fun. They're going to be, you know, contribute to a good environment. Like those things are so important. So yeah, Jamie's great because not only is she a fantastic actress, she's also like, she's produced stuff herself. She knows like she's great. She's like so easy to deal with, and that kind of stuff is just fantastic. Like Susan, like I said, that's why we've worked with her on so many things. Like when I like somebody, I'm like, throw them in as many as I can, you know, because it's just so much better to like not have to worry about that. To be like that part, whew, that I don't have to worry about.
Yeah. So just something I haven't really asked anyone ever before, but I figured I would, just because I'm trying to figure out how to kind of deal with this myself. But
yes.
As an actress and as someone who's involved in the industry, how, like, what would you say to someone who has like a problem, like kind of like stepping out of their comfort zone? Like how would you influence someone to, like, what would you say to make them more comfortable to do that? Like, because I personally get very awkward and weird sometimes. It's different in front of a camera, than in person. Believe me. I just get shaky and get weird. So yeah, how would you like, what would you recommend someone do to get out of that thing in their mind?
Yes. I mean, I think that the more you do something and realize like, hey, I survived that, it wasn't so scary and terrible, the better you'll be. So like two of the things I think everyone should have to act like a little bit, take some acting, because I think it teaches you some really amazing life skills. One of which is like, you can't give any fucks. Okay. Like to deliver a performance, I can't be worrying about how I look, how I sound, what people are going to think about it, any of that stuff. Like I cannot give a fuck what people think about me or anything else. Like I got to fully live in that moment and have that honest experience. And I think that's like such an amazing gift, because that helps you realize that like we all sometimes are so overly concerned about that, like how people are perceiving us or what people are thinking about us and all those kinds of things. And I think, that in and of itself can prevent a lot of people from taking risks and doing stuff that they want to do, that self-judgment and that fear of judgment from others. And so I think if you can get out of your head and let go of that, that is a huge thing. And then I think also another skill that it teaches you that is also beneficial for life is listening. Like, because it's all about the other person and your need to get through to that other person and your need to be heard and all that kind of stuff, right? And I think that is another way too for people, if like, you're worried about this sounds like I'm quoting my Lexi, actually, now that I think about it. Wait, did I say this?
That was earlier too. You were like, I'm all about like, organization, all this other stuff. I'm like, that's totally Lexi.
I am. I know. It's funny. Yep. Well, hey, write what you know. So I think like we're all in our own heads and worried about ourselves. But like, if you realize that like, if you put the impetus on somebody else and put the focus on somebody else, this is literally a Lexi blog. That is so funny. But for real, I think that you get out of your own head and you stop worrying about yourself so much and what people are thinking of you, right? If you're like concerned about the other person. So I think that those are two ways to do it. And honestly, like everyone fails, everyone looks stupid, everyone is awkward. That is how it is to be human. So I think that you regret at the end of the day, you regret the things you didn't do more than the things you did, right?
Yeah. I'm getting older and older, and I just regretted that I haven't done so many things that I've wanted to do my whole life.
Totally. You're not going like, oh, I sounded really stupid at that party 3 years ago when I said that fucking joke. You're thinking like, why didn't I take this risk or do this thing, right? It's like the things you don't do are the things that stick with you longer. So I think it's worth it. It's worth it, to look silly. It's worth it to fail. It's worth it to try. That's how you grow. That's how you learn. Like none of those experiences are not worthwhile. They're all worthwhile. They all teach you something about yourself or about life. And I think that's valuable. So yeah, go for it. Do it. Like I said, I'm always coming up with new and exciting ways to get rejected or or whatever, so
I can't, my list of failures is like, ridiculous. It was like, I could paper the walls with my list of failures.
As is anyone who's super successful.
But at the same time too, like if I like doing it, I'm just going to continue to do it. So like I played in the band forever and ever and ever. No one ever cared. I loved doing it. I loved pissing people off because they hated us so much. I loved it.
And also, like, I think we have, as a society, we have a need to kind of like justify everything that we do in terms of like, it has to be like professional or make money or do something. But like, hey, it's okay to have a hobby. It's okay to be in a band that doesn't make money and no one cares about. Like, who cares? Like, why does everything we do have to be like productive or right? Like, why do we need to prove ourselves in everything we do?
I agree with you 100%. I'm going to just take this segment of the show and send it to my mom, if that's cool. Because she's like, you're still doing that? Yeah. Why? I'm like, because I like it. You know?
Yes, you like it. And dude, and it brings value to your life if you like it, right? And that's totally fine. Yeah. So I think we all need to like, and I'm guilty of this myself as well. Like I think sometimes we all need to take a step back and divorce ourselves from the like result of it. You know, like what did it do for you? What did it give you? Like I liked it. I had fun. That in and of itself is a valuable thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Well, thank you for that.
You're so welcome. Tell your mom anytime. I'll talk her down, you know? My parents are doctors, okay? So they didn't want me to be an actor either. So
wow. Yeah, my parents were nurses. So they weren't doctors, but they were nurses. And yeah, they wanted me to mop up blood. I don't know, whatever you do and working in a hospital. But instead I just call people and tell them they can't pay their bills and tell them I'm going to take their car away from them. So I just do that instead. So anyways, now it's about that time to wrap things up. So where can people follow you it's for updates on, like, I'm sure you're going to be posting about when Lexi's available in other spots and
absolutely.
Where can people follow you to get the most information?
Absolutely. So my handles everywhere is just my name at Victoria Vertuga across platforms, IG, you know, Twitter, Facebook, all of the above. And Lexi will be at Lexi Film. And then you can, we'll keep you posted on when it's available and on all the next projects in the works as well.
Cool. Sounds
and,
awesome.
You know, dogs. There's dogs there too. I like
yeah. There's, I mean, like most of if you look at my phone, it's almost all dog and cat pictures. That's mostly all it is. But whatever. And it's like I'll wake up and I'm like, that's adorable. I was gonna take a picture of it. And like I don't even like send it to my wife. I'm just like, I just want it in my phone.
Same. I must have this. I have like 8,000 versions of like the same picture, you know, like, oh, every time she sleeps that way, it's so cute. You gotta take a picture, bro. You gotta do it.
My dog's 17. So like every time like she does something cute, I'm like, I want this on camera because who knows?
You do.
Yeah. She's great. She's great. But she's old enough to drive, so that's cool.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah, and she was a rescue. So look at that.
She's been old enough to drive for.
In dog years, she's like my grandmother. So that's cool. But so yeah, go check out all of her dog pictures and like them all. Sergio, I'm talking to you. So Tony, where can people follow you?
You can find me at Tony Has Nine Fingers on YouTube, where I do movie reviews, unboxings, anything movie related. You'll find me on there. Tony Has Nine Fingers on Twitter, which I hardly ever use. Tony Has Nine Fingers on TikTok, which I do not twerk whatsoever. Yeah. I do anything movie related too. Tony's Movies on Instagram, where I show off the movies behind me, and of course here every Tuesday. Well, most Tuesdays, unless Kevin loses.
Unless I'm sick.
Thanks for bringing it up. You can't talk. The one thing you need to do to do what you do is have a voice. You know, it's usually helpful. Yeah.
Although I'm sure Tony's like, oh great, he can't talk. That's awesome. He can shut up. Because that's one thing is I don't shut up a lot. So but that whatever. So what else were you saying, Tony?
I was saying every Tuesday or most Tuesdays on the Wicked Horror Show, whether live or listening, but you definitely should watch us because you get to see everyone and the trailers and stuff like that. Check out the Wicked Horror Show Instagram, where you can find previous guests or who's coming on or anything along those lines. And Kevin.
Just A-Knuckle on Instagram. Besides doing this show and the reviews with the 13th Wolfman, I'm also part of Black and White Fright and a new show called Violence Buffet that just started. And it's we're watching there's one guy that we're friends with who's seen next to no movies, and so we try to find the most messed up stuff and just get a live reaction from him. And then just to see, so I got some pretty messed up stuff in the works. It's like I'm finding the most gory stuff I can find, and just
that is hilarious.
Yeah. So
your parents play like Cards Against Humanity, so you can hear them say like naughty words.
Oh my god! Oh my god! And then they can say it. Then they're like, "What does that mean?" It's like
the best.
I don't want to have to tell my mom what a blumpkin is. So anyways, so thanks for watching / listening. Have a good one. Have a good night, Sergio. You're the man. Don't forget it. And we'll see you next time. Bye.